Get started. So good morning for those of you that made it. We'll see if other people join us during this time. Otherwise, I know school's getting going for a lot of people right now, and as well as getting busy back into the fall here. Summer's officially over, I guess, right, Marty?
Right.
Officially over. So what I want to go through today is some sales management things. Number one, with doing a mid-year sales review. So Marty, you've got salespeople you're dealing with, obviously, on remodeling and new homes. Yvonne, you're selling yourself, and so our clients are kind of a combination of that. So I'm going to go through and just look at some things to take a look at for a review, and then to reset and try to finish up the year strong as it relates to sales. The next is a guide that I got from one of my clients called a sales probability analysis. It's a nice way to be able to project future sales. And it's really simple and something you can update monthly, and really helps kind of look at what you've got coming up in the pipeline. As you look at meeting sales goals and also expansion. If you're looking at purchasing or buying new land or building new models, that's so on and so forth. And then I wanted to let everyone know that we do have our scorecard dates set for this month, September 19th and 20th, and we're going to go ahead and get them set for the final quarter of the year too. So we're trying to figure out a way how you guys can just sign up for 4 months at a time using our You Can Book Me software. So that'll be coming on here pretty shortly. But this is, I guess, there's 5 things that I'll go over today as it relates to a mid-year salesperson review that we'll take a look at. Number 1 is looking at the sales budget versus the actual. And all of you at the beginning of the year should have put together a sales budget, and then where you can track it monthly. So you have actuals happening monthly, and then you can compare, are you above or below your projections. And then we'll look at what we call the 4 Ps for salespeople. So we have preparation, prospecting, presenting, and partners. So we'll take a look at those and how you can do a grading review of that, and then figure out, okay, where you need help in those areas. Creating an action plan for any ranking below 8. And then looking at time blocking on your calendar to complete action items. And then we set a completion date if applicable. And then right now, once we do, I guess you call this a mid-year salesperson review, it's really 8 months into the year, but we'll set up a review time in January. So you get to the beginning of the year, again, recap what happened in 2012, or 2013, excuse me, and then project forward for 2014. So these are the areas on the screen right now, and I'll read them off for you, Yvonne, because you can't see them, but the areas on the screen that I recommend as you do your review, you do your critique on. So we'll start with preparation. And with preparation, we begin with market research. And so the question here is that, are you as a salesperson or are your salespeople conducting an adequate amount of market research? I'll give you an example of what I mean here. I'm meeting with a client last week, and they were getting ready for an event, a parade of homes. And one of the things we looked at is, hey, what new projects are now in our geographic area that we're competing with, and then what are the other builders doing as far as model homes, new offerings, that sort of thing. And so it was imperative that the salespeople actually got out of the model and got into, looking at the competitors' homes, as well as, driving through neighborhoods and getting an idea of what other competition there is out there that, they were not able to build in. It was a controlled neighborhood. Education. It still goes back to, from a preparation standpoint, is, are your salespeople educating themselves on a regular basis? And I'm not referring to continue education like for a real estate license, but are they going over and beyond that, going to seminars, reading books? Do you have an educational component as part of your sales training or your sales meetings each week or twice a month or whatever you do in your sales meetings? Scripting. Like we worked on for sales training last week and we'll continue to work on next week is, we're dealing now with objections and closing techniques, and now we're going to get into finance and helping people logically justify the sale. Well, it all comes down to knowing what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. And scripting, again, should definitely be part of your sales meeting, as well as, like a one-on-one when you're working with people on a planned encounter. And then your sales environment. I have a notes on here. Your tablet. Does your tablet have access to your photo galleries online? Are your photo galleries up to date? Your floor plans. Are your floor plans all up to date on your website? Seems like that's one thing that we always get behind on, and we start designing and building new floor plans, but they don't get on the site. And if you remember, as far as where people are spending time on your websites, it's in your photo gallery, it's in your design library, it's on your locations page and your available homes page. So floor plans are really, really imperative. And Marty, if I remember correctly, last time I was on Pratt Homes, I think for your single family, you don't have many floor plans, if maybe none at all. So note to self that you need to get some floor plans up there. Collateral materials, collateral materials, okay, so the question was asked, we're having an event coming up, and I know, Yvonne, you've got an event coming up here with the Southern Living Showcase Home. The question is, what collateral materials should I have out? The answer is, in my opinion, is your business card. Collateral materials should never be out in a model home or a spec home for a couple of reasons. Number one, if your home is staged and merchandised, it's going to detract from the merchandising. In other words, when people envision themselves living in one of your homes, they don't envision the kitchen being full of plat maps and standard features and so on and so forth, where it just clutters things up. So all that material should be tucked away in a cabinet, in a pantry, away so it doesn't detract from the merchandising. Number two is, if someone comes and asks you for a brochure or getting more information on the home, you don't want to give them something they don't want. You want to be able to ask the question, well, absolutely, I can get you a brochure. Tell me what information you're looking for, and I'll be happy to put it together. And so then that allows you to get into a conversation and actually, give you the opportunity to close for an appointment or actually get contact information. So collateral materials, what should you have out? Your business card, but you do need to have other collateral materials, prepared for your initial meetings. I call it a pre-consultation packet. So it'd be your folder, and in that folder it would have, again, your business cards, perhaps an image brochure on the company. It might have some of your testimonials from people in there. Maybe it's a plat map of the neighborhood you're building in. Could be a floor plan of the home that they're interested in, so on and so forth. So you got to have that stuff available, but just don't keep it out. So your sales environment is very important to keep it clean and neat, but also to have the information ready. Not only physical information, but electronic information. So that's the 4 areas of preparation that I like to grade on. And the idea here is you want to go through and grade yourself or grade your salespeople on a 1 to 10 scale. So 10, it doesn't get any better than that. 1, they need a ton of improvement. So on a market research, if you are giving a grade of less than 8, there needs to be an action plan put together of what can be done to improve that. Education, same thing, 1 to 10. Scripting, 1 to 10. Your sales environment, 1 to 10. And so anything on there is less than 8, put together an action plan. All right, so now we move into prospecting, the next P. So we have 5 things on here. Number 1 is email follow-up. And if the email is being done through Ubix, it's real easy to track. Is email follow-up being done quickly? Ideally within the first hour, a response within the first hour, but for sure within 24 hours. And is it being done consistently for people in the database? I think one of the things we find in Ubix is that a lot of the salespeople rely too heavily on automation part of it, and you still need to get out there and send your personal emails to your A and B prospects especially. So email follow-up, phone follow-up. Are the phone calls being made? It's always hard to get people on the phone. I like to use texting as well for follow-up. That's obviously preferable, especially in some demographics. And texting, 84% open rate in the first hour, versus email, most of you are, right around a 25% open rate. So texting works great when you can get a cell phone, all the more important to get that cell phone when you're at the model home or talking to somebody on the phone. Mail follow-up, thank you card within 24 hours going out. I like to do a thank you card after every substantive meeting. So my initial consultation, my home site review, my plan deposit, so on and so forth. I like to send out a little thank you note. That's the one thing you can guarantee that's going to get a 100% open rate, and nobody sends hand-addressed mail anymore. Events. Looking at right now, meeting with Runa and Adriana earlier this week, my suggestion is that we spend 5-10 minutes on the phone with you guys each and every month to project out your next 3 months of events, at least to get them on the calendar so we have a target event coming up. You need to have at least one event a month. I mean, it's just, you just have to do it because that's the best way to get that online lead to become an on-site prospect. And not everyone's going to call. Certainly they may not walk through your model home, but if you give them a reason to come out in a very low-key setting, like a group event like that, especially if it's a pre-sold model, a pre-sold home, definitely is going to, you know, keep the prospects flowing in front of you. And then finally, social media. You know, and I wish Star was on because she does such a great job with this. But one thing Star was talking about, and I'm sure she'll share with you at a future meeting, was actually collaborating on social media. You know, taking a group of people within our premium clients who wanted to sit down and collaborate on content that they could use for social media. You know, she does a lot with Facebook, gets a lot of business off of it, and of course, one of the things that often precludes us from using social media is we don't know what to say or do. So she was looking at developing like a resource area for that. So social media, you know, the simplest thing right now is just to be able to track your progress of your jobs and post photos as they are completed and under construction. Okay, so that's a prospecting, the 5 areas I'm critiquing there. Scale of 1 to 10, anything less than an 8, I set an action plan for. Email follow-up, phone follow-up, mail follow-up, events. Am I having an event monthly? And the reason I put this in as a salesperson, because I firmly believe it's the salesperson's responsibility to make sure an event is happening. You know, salespeople too often, way too often, they want to wait for walk-in traffic. You know, and the great quote out there about walk-in traffic is, you know, waiting for walk-in traffic is like being on welfare. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit every month, but it's never enough to, you know, to pay all the bills. So planning an event each and every month and having the salesperson be responsible for that, you as a sales manager or owner can help them execute it, but it should be on their radar of what event they want to do, you know, what home is closing, what's going to be a good event if there's a new model opening or a spec home that's being completed. Or, you know, obviously, Yvonne, you guys have some good luck with the construction walkthroughs too. The home doesn't have to be completed to do that. And then social media, salespeople, yes, they have to be involved in it. And, you know, the thing I've found once in a while too is that sometimes salespeople will compete with the builder, where they have a personal Facebook page and they're using that for business, which is detracting from what the builder is trying to do. So you got to make sure that there is a social media policy within the company and they know what they can and can't do. Okay, so that's the first 2 P's. Now let's move on to the 3rd P, which is presenting. And presenting, this is going to tie right into the sales probability matrix, which I'm going to go through with you here last. So presenting, what am I tracking now? My initial meetings. Okay, how well is my salesperson, or how well am I doing at my initial meetings? You know, how many am I getting each week? Am I converting those people into, you know, the next meeting, which would be the home site review? If I'm not, why? You know, so the question is, am I not doing a good job of qualifying? I'm meeting with the wrong type of prospects, which goes back to my lead intake. Or is it that I'm not doing a good job of closing for the next meeting? I'm not doing a good job of conveying value? You know, what exactly is it? So initial consultations, remember, the first time you meet takes somewhere between 1 to 2 hours. And the main question they're asked is, would you consider building with us? If the answer is yes, here's the next step. So a scale of 1 to 10 on that, are you an 8 or above? Home site reviews, next one. We did do some training on how to review a home site. All of you should have some sort of a home site toolkit where at least you have orange cones where you can mark lot corners, you can mark the building envelope available, as well as have tape measures and that sort of thing to be able to really give people a good feel for the home site. That's the first place emotion is the emotional connection between you, your offering, and the prospect that happens on the home site reviews. It's very important it's done correctly. Plan deposit, financing, purchase agreements. Some salespeople are scared to death of financing, and so they just say, well, yeah, here, call our preferred lender, and they don't understand how financing works. It's very, very important. Each salesperson has a basic understanding of financing, tax implications, of ownership, especially when you're dealing with first-time home buyers or sometimes even people that are moving up, where they don't take in consideration the tax implications of maybe paying a little bit higher real estate taxes and or mortgage interest. That is going to be deductible. And then purchase agreements. This is especially goes for new salespeople. If new salespeople are not comfortable with the paperwork, to write that contract, they oftentimes will avoid asking, the final question. So, one of the things that I would always do with a new salesperson is I get them the paperwork right away, and then I make sure that they are able to present it to me and have, can do it with as I ask them questions. Because if they can do it for me as a sales manager, I know they can do it for the prospect. So to review for presenting, 5 things here we're critiquing: initial consultations, home site review, getting the plan deposit, financing, and purchase agreements. If it's a less than an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, it needs to be an action plan put together to improve. Okay, and then finally, our last P is partners. Pretty simple. We've got 2 sets of partners here. One is realtors. The other one is our buyers and our owners. So from an outreach perspective, from realtors, there's a top 10 and a top 100 list. Each salesperson should have weekly contact, or I should say monthly contact with their top 10, which usually results into talking to 1 or 2 of their top 10 each month. And I recommend at a minimum a quarterly, realtor outreach to their top 100. Now this could be in the form of just an email update, although email updates you could get done monthly easily, but maybe quarterly you're going to do some sort of an event, for realtors. And you don't really need to do more than probably 3 or 4 a year. For realtors, the best events are obviously when you have something new built that they can walk through and see. Don't get too cute with realtors, because you can spend a lot of time trying to put together this perfect event and nobody shows up. So the most important thing with realtor outreach is you're focusing on your top 10 on a monthly basis, and then being able to have a mass communication for your top 100, once a month to at a minimum once a quarter. The buyer and owner outreach, we're working on this right now with the referral rewards program. Runa is very, very deep into it right now. I've reviewed the criteria with them, and a lot of this is going to be automated, so it's going to be great when it starts. But nothing beats a phone call or face-to-face meeting with one of your one of your people you built for, one of your owners, or somebody that's in progress, and just reminding them of that you love referrals and your referral rewards program. So that completes the partners. Again, if it's a less than 8, set an action plan for improvement. Now, what we're going to do is create a scorecard. So we take all those items, and I'll put these items into the Game Day Coaching Premium Clients resource area, so you can download this PowerPoint. But we'll take and rank 1 to 10. Anything below an 8, again, we're going to go ahead and set an action plan, and then we're going to get into time blocking for your calendar. Because if you need someone that needs to do some action items here, I would do 2 things. Number 1 is I would get them to commit to time blocking on their calendar each week when they're going to work on them. And number 2, set a completion date for when they will have any items completed. So let me go out here for a second, and I want to pull up. This is a business plan a template that I put together for salespeople. And one of the things that we looked at in the beginning of the year was setting projections for sales projections. So this is a blank one that's set, and I'm going to pull up one here that is a real one that I'm using with one of my clients. So this particular client had projected 25 total sales, a volume of about 14.7 million, and then we broke it down by salesperson. We even put together stretch goals here. Stretch goal would be 30 sales. So we haven't recapped August yet. We'll be doing that actually today. But as of the end of July, the budget was to have 13 sales by the end of July. And the actual was 10. So we're 3 sales behind. So as of right now, what I'm doing is going through and ranking the salespeople, on those items that I've put together, and then we'll have action plans here for September, October, November, December. What do we need to do in order to get back on track and meet our actual goal? So very important, we look at company-wide sales by month, but also individual salesperson sales. They put together their projections by month and then total for the year, is that you're looking at those individual projections and making sure they're being made, they're met or exceeded. And if they're not, hey, it's okay. We have time. We got 4 months here to book some more sales, but we've got to make sure we put together a plan to make that happen. So now the next thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at my numbers breakdown. In this particular chart right here, what I have done is I've taken those 4 P's. So we've got the preparation, we've got prospecting, we've got the partners, which is realtors and past customers, and then we have presenting. And here I can go ahead and I can put together daily, weekly, or monthly goals for these individually. So if I know that, say, market research, that my salesperson hasn't been doing an adequate job of market research, they're not tracking what their competitors are doing, maybe they're not tracking the used competition in the area, I need to know that. So I'm going to set a goal for them to do 1 hour of market research per week. So I will go ahead and I'll put that in here. Maybe their sales environment's great, maybe they're doing great with their education, reading, and training. I don't need to worry about those. Then I go into presenting and I look at, okay, is there any areas of presenting that they need help with? Realtor outreach, past customer outreach, anything there. And so I can set goals for them daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Now, once I get through the numbers breakdown, then I can go to my daily schedule here. And this is where I can start to time block. So I put an example in here of Tuesdays between 11 and 1, I'm going to focus on my realtor outreach program. And the reason I picked Tuesdays between 11 and 1 is because, well, you know what? A lot of broker opens happen on Tuesdays between 11 and 1. So one of the things I can do, which is very effective, is I can seek out my top 10 agents that I'm tracking in my area, and if they're doing broker opens on a regular basis, I can make sure I make myself available to go out to them. Otherwise, what can I do? I can buy them a cup of coffee, I can buy them lunch, I can show up at their office and just hobnob with them. At a minimum, I'll give them a phone call and find out what's happening in the marketplace, what their read is. So again, anything that's less than an 8 on here that my salesperson needs help with, I will go out and I will now block out time in my calendar each week of when I'm going to accomplish that, and this will go along with an action plan and a completion date for that action. Obviously, the completion date, you want to make it happen before 12/31. Ideally, you want to see corrections well before that, so I would say you'd be looking at probably 30 to 60-day completion dates, for whatever items are missing right now. Now, Yvonne or Marty, any questions I just went through? Because I'm going to shift gears right now and go through the sales probability matrix.
No, I think it was very clear.
Okay.
Good reminders.
That's what it is. It's good reminders because Yvonne, you're selling. We're all selling, and so you always got to step back and take a look at, okay, how am I doing? Okay, so this next section here is really for a higher level sales manager or owner review, and this is called a sales probability matrix. And what we're looking at is we want to project future revenue and sales based on what we have in the pipeline right now. We all know this is it's a process, the sales process, and so we have people that are buyers where we're fulfilling our contract. We have people that are in design, and we have people maybe that have a home site reservation, or we're just meeting with us as prospects. So the idea here is to be able to keep an active look at what you have in the pipeline to project what sort of revenue and dollar amount is going to be coming out in future months. So there's 3 things I'm going to be looking at here. Number 1 is the percentage of jobs to complete. So this would be my buyers. So if I have a contract, say for a $800,000 home, what percentage of that contract has been fulfilled and completed? And this is really easy to track, especially if you're using construction or perm financing. Number 2 would be I'm going to be look at my reservation backlog And number 3 would be my design backlog. Now, if you want to get into your A prospects too, putting them in here, that's fine. But I'll show you how this all comes together. So what I have on this particular document is I've got one for remodeling and I've got one for home building. So Marty, you can thank me later for this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through the home builder this time. And but Marty, this is slightly different from the remodeling and home building tab. And we'll go through the home building first. So simple Excel spreadsheet here. I've got some cell notes in here, as you see where the little red tabs are. But the goal here of doing this is to determine how much of annual goals in the pipeline, both in dollars and by percentage of annual volume. And then just a note, we've got areas in here that are white cells where we enter data, and then the yellow cells will calculate automatically. So again, we have 3 sections in here. We've got work in production, we have design backlog, and we can have home site reservation backlog. And so obviously the work in production is booked work. The design is going to be the second highest probability of converting. And then we have like a home site reservation or scope and range. And if you wanted to, below here, you could even add A prospects down here, and start projecting, what the dollar volume would be for their particular sales. So at the very top, I picked my annual volume goal. So here I'm just going to use an example of $5 million. So I pop that in here. Now, if you want to add this is fine. If you don't, skip it. Total income to date after work in process. So if you want to be tracking your company income, you can be doing that as well. Total value of work to produce. Okay, so what this is this is going to be a combination of what is left to complete for my jobs in production, what is a probability of the jobs in design that are going to come to contract, and then what is the probability of home site reservations and or scope and range meetings, people that have actually put down dollars, that those will come to contract as well. I always need to put in the month in the fiscal year. So most of you probably have a fiscal year for, that matches your calendar year, January 1 to December 31st. So right now, for this particular example, we're 8 months into the fiscal year, so we're in August. We move into September. Once we complete September, we're 9 months into the fiscal year. And this will automatically project the percentage of the goal met, and will also calculate year to date. Am I ahead or am I behind? Based on what I've booked in production and what is also in the pipeline. So this is the way it works. When I get into production, I go ahead and you can list, the job type, whether it's the address, if you guys have an internal job number, or if you just go by the person's last name. I can put them in here. I'm going to put the full contract amount here, and that would be completed within the fiscal year. So, those of you, if you're starting a home right now, you may not complete this in the fiscal year. So what you will do is you will, if you're doing a construction to perm financing, you would then estimate the percentage of the contract to be completed in the fiscal year. Then I'm going to look at what's been completed so far. At the end of the month, what has been completed so far. So in this particular case for Brown, the contract amount was $335,000. It's $300,000 has been completed. So I still have $35,000 of revenue, to come into the company. And then if I want to, I can figure out what my income is going to be, or my gross margin over here. Now this next one, you see we have a $400,000 contract. $200,000 has been completed. I've still got $200,000 to come into the company. And then the last example is I've got a $500,000 contract. I've completed $100,000. And I've still got $400,000 to come into the company. So as far as production goes, I've got $635,000 outstanding still to come in from contracts. I've completed $600,000. I've got a total of $1.235 million right now in production. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to estimating, into design. So design, you guys have, what this is simply is you've collected a design deposit. From someone, and you're actually actively drawing. So once somebody comes into design, they're always going to walk in with an estimated project. So in this case, I'm showing there are 4 people in design. So this would still be an A prospect, but they put down money. We've got estimates here of anywhere from $250,000 to $600,000, so I've got about $1.65 million in design right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a probability on there of 80% on all of these. So what this is going to do now is it's going to calculate a $400,000 job with an 80% probability of closing that job means that I have approximately $320,000 worth of work here. So the 80% comes from what your closing rate is from people that actually put down design money. Now, I have some clients that say that their closing rate's over 95%. In this case, we're using 80%, so you would need to fill in this number of what your typical closing rate is based on that. So in this case, if I use 80% based on 1.65 million worth of estimated work, that means I have a probability of another 1.32 million in my pipeline right now. 1.32 million. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that to the 635 that is left to be completed from production. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to look at, okay, who do I have that has put down money in a home site reservation or perhaps has put down money for a scope and range meeting, lot feasibility, whatever you want to call it. So in this example, I'm showing 4 different people that have put down money. And I've got estimates of $275,000 to $450,000 here. So now my probability, I'm going to move down quite a bit. I'm going to go to 50%. And in one of them, I'm going to go to 25% because I think they're shaky. This is done on an individual basis by you or your salesperson saying, you know what, they're looking really strong. Okay, 60%. I would be hesitant to go any more than 70% here because typically home site reservations are refundable, and obviously a lot can change during that time. So normally I would say go for 50%, but if someone's really strong, you know, bump them up to 60, don't go more than 70. So now what I do is I'm taking, you know, 25 to 50% of this 1.345 million. That's the total amount that I have right now for a reservation, and I'm looking at about another $560,000 of work that I could be, you know, that is in my backlog. So I'm going to take now that $560,000 and I'm going to add it together with everything else. So I'll add 560 to the 1.32 I have in design, and then another 635 I have in outstanding production, you know, for my buyers. So now I have a total potential value of work right now of 2.5 million. 2.5 million. Well, now I go back up to my goals and I say, okay, well, my goal was $500,000. I've got a total value of work to produce of about $2.515 million. I've hit roughly about 50% of my goal, and year to date I'm roughly 16% behind where I should be. So now I can make adjustments over the next 4 months of the year to either, you know, convert another prospect into design that I don't have in there right now, you know, fast track something. Maybe I've got a foundation in the ground for a spec, and I'm going to go ahead and pop up that spec because I need the volume to meet my sales goals to close that in this fiscal year. So this helps you make decisions on a month-to-month basis of where, you know, where you are, how you're doing, and what you need to do to either meet or exceed your sales goals. So Yvonne, I know you can't see this, but Marty, any questions on this particular sheet?
No, it's more detailed than what we currently do. I was just kind of thinking while you were talking that maybe I should send you what we do, but this is a lot more detailed, I think, anyway. I love the percentage of the goal met, so I would like to add that to what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like this. This is great.
It's simple.
But if you don't mind, I think I'll send you the one I do right now, because it's something I do every month, and I send it, you know, to Lynn Lowell and Mike every month.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have this available for you to download too, and you can look at the remodeling side is a little bit it's a little bit more detailed because obviously the contract and completed is, you know, different remodeling because you have progress payments, you know, there.
Okay.
And then I've got,
Cool.
design and scope and range. And I know Mike right now is just doing design. He's not doing scope and range, but I did talk to him about adding a scope and range, getting
Yeah,
that
I think he's
250.
getting ready to. Yeah, I think he's getting ready to do
Okay.
that. He really enjoyed that talk with you.
Yeah, well,
So,
good. And the other thing I have for
yeah.
remodeling is I have, a lot of times in remodeling, you have a lot higher volume or a lot higher units but lower volume. So you might have people that are in your pipeline, but you're just going to not even put them on the list because they're low probability.
Right, and we actually, the one I send you, I'll show you what we do, but we do that. We have all of our, projected ones. We have the ones that are in there, the ones that have closed, and then we have the ones that are looking like they'll be there in there, and then we have ones that we know will not be until next year.
Sure.
And so we kind of separate it out. So yeah, I'll send that over to you to take a
Okay.
look at.
And this will be available
Well,
for
this
download
has been
as
good.
well. So Yvonne, do you have any spreadsheet like this right now for you guys to project out, work?
No, but actually, my banker was just asking for this, so I don't know if there's any way that you can send it today to me, or will you be able to download it today?
Yeah, you know what? I'll just email it to you since you need it right away.
Yeah.
And that's
They,
something, Yvonne, that's what I do too. Every month I send it to our bankers too. So
right. That's a
it
great
is nice
idea.
to have a format like this. Yeah.
Right. Right.
This is so simple, the reason I like it, and it also takes into consideration what you've got coming in the pipeline the next 3-4 months.
Right. Right.
Because obviously design is a backlog. That takes time. Home site reservations take time. But at least it shows you, yeah, and then you could show the banker,
Right.
you can say, look, we're being very conservative here. We're only projecting 50% of our, of our home site reservations are going to convert, or
Right.
40% or that sort of thing. And so, every banker loves to be conservative when they're
Yes.
looking at numbers. So, well, great, guys. That is it for today. So what I will do is, Yvonne, I'll send this to you right away. Marty, certainly send yours over. I'll take a look at it. And if there's anything I can add to this one that you have to improve it, that would be great. And then I'll send out a link for this recording along with the materials for download, including the salesperson review stuff.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Have a great morning.
Thanks.
Take
You
care.
All
too.
right. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Rick.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, Runa,
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, so we talked about getting together with Darius